Back in the late 60s, early 70s, for those of you who know the Loyola history, we kind of call it the revolutionary days, the revolution. And one of the catchwords back then for the Jesuits who were here on campus was question everything. Okay? Don't accept anything, question everything. Well, our next inductee is a guy who was very cerebral, and he did question everything, but in a great way. That would be Henry Hooper. Henry was one of those athletes who I think knew everything that was going on around him. On the football team, captain of the football team, lacrosse team, captain of the lacrosse team, and especially thinking ahead on the wrestling mat. So with pleasure, I introduce from the class of 72, Henry Hooper. Went on to Yale, by the way.
Get the cerebral going. One of the greatest accomplishments for an athlete is to make varsity. And I feel very fortunate that two of my coaches at Loyola High School are here with us tonight. One is John Stewart, who is coach of the lacrosse team, and Joe Broom, who was coach of the football team. But they were also teachers. Joe was my AP English teacher, and John was my algebra teacher. And for that, they were truly terrific. A man who I did not know had passed away was my wrestling coach and a great history teacher, Bob Keller. He died in 2011, and I got that word. I had hoped he would be here tonight. He was a good one. Yes, these men were great coaches, but they were also giants in the classroom. They inspired me to follow in their footsteps. I taught English and coached wrestling at McDonough for 6 years. And then for 30 years, I was in business in various parts of the country. I'm now teaching high school English, and so I'm teaching journalism and business at a school in Portland, Oregon, and I'm coaching wrestling. There was one catch. The mascot of our school. Sorry, Coach. I almost didn't take the job. I'm at Lincoln High School in Portland, Oregon, and it's been a great transition for me. My dad was a champion wrestler in high school and college. He was a three-time Southern Conference champion from the University of North Carolina, and he remained a devoted fan to wrestling for his entire life. He died a few weeks ago at the age of 91. Today, we celebrated his life at the Church of the Good Shepherd in Ruxton. And tonight, I'm here receiving this honor. It's been quite a day. It's with sadness and affection that I recall this story of my dad's athletic spirit. I really feel he's with us here tonight. Somehow, before Siri, my dad was able to make way to see his kids play in sports all over the city. He went to some of the most godforsaken places in Baltimore City and Baltimore County, and how he got there on time, we're never quite sure. He would leave work early, watch the event, drive us home, and then return to work to finish whatever was left over at the office. Multiply that by 8. I'm one of 8 kids, and we all enjoyed Dad's pastime, which was watching us. He attended almost every high school football game, lacrosse game, and wrestling match I ever competed in. He arrived at those smelly gyms and humid wrestling rooms. John Stewart would always say as we go across the basketball court, "Get back in your smelly room." We did. The wrestlers, we had our own spirit. And Dad would lament, though, that it's tougher to be a parent watching an athlete than it is to be competing on the field. As the father of athletes, I know what that's like. Over the years, my dad has taken my brothers and me to lots of wrestling camps and clinics. So by the time I was a freshman at Loyola, I thought I was a great wrestler, and I should make varsity. I learned quickly that I would have to pay my dues. I particularly remember one particular bout. I was JV as a freshman. It was an away match versus Northwestern. The varsity wrestled at 4:30 in the main gym, and the JV was relegated to an auxiliary gym in the boonies with poor lighting, terrible mats, and a so-so referee, or so I saw. I wrestled 145, and I was undefeated going into the match. The bout started off well. I made a great double leg takedown and put the kid right on his back. I racked up to quick points with a cradle and a half Nelson just as the buzzer sounded at the end of the first period. At the end of that time, I was ahead 12-0. Then I got caught. In the second period, I chose top and quickly tied up my opponent in an armbar. As I made the final step towards putting him on his back, my foot landed on his head. Ref blew the whistle, gave the opponent 1 point. Unnecessary roughness against me, so he gets a point. That was my first mistake. Went back to center, started again. This time, I put in another pinning combination, a deep chicken wing. You can picture it. Was about to score some more back points, but the Northwestern wrestler flopped around and exposed his elbow at a funky angle. Again, the ref stopped the match, gave the guy a second point. My unnecessary roughness. I was mad, and I showed it. The referee saw my anger, mistake number 2. As I went back to the center, he gave me a verbal warning. Watch yourself, young man. In the next flurry, I had control. We were standing, and my arms were around his waist, and we're going quickly out of bounds. He turned around, grabbed my head and shoulders, and threw me into the stands. I was totally stunned. I came out swinging. In a split second, my right nailed him, the right glancing off his jaw. The referee, meanwhile, he missed the toss into the stands, but he turned around just in time to see me land my right hook. The whistle sounded, match was over. Northwestern wins. Despite leading the match 12-2, I lost. The call, unsportsmanlike conduct. On the way home, I thought my dad would console me and tell me, it's okay. You know, the other guy was a bad sport and the ref missed a throw into the cheap seats. I thought for sure my father would be on my side. He wasn't. Instead of comforting me, he said, you blew it. You were ready, you're not ready for varsity. This was the perfect time to learn what it takes to wrestle a match. First, you have to beat your opponent. Secondly, you have to beat the referee. I was furious. When I finally cooled down, my father said, boy, you let the situation get out of control. A varsity wrestler would have pinned his opponent in the first period, and you would not have risked the penalty points that you gave up. I lost the match not because of the referee, but because I was showing off, practicing some fancy moves and some pinning combinations that I thought would impress the crowd. Dad reminded me that the referee is supposed to protect the wrestlers. Those 2 penalty points were against me because that's exactly what he was doing, protecting the wrestlers. As we pulled into the driveway, my dad calmly counseled me to learn from my JV mistakes so I could take those lessons with me to varsity. I learned. Thank you, Dad, for being a Hall of Fame parent. Thanks also to my brothers who are here tonight, Laurie, Ned, and Charlie. Laurie, by the way, was the scholar athlete in the class of 1970. Thanks to Uncle John Evans, class of 53, and to my father-in-law, Vince Bagley, class of 44, both Loyola Hall of Famers. I want to thank my wife, Tracy, my mother-in-law, Barbara Ipsaro, and my Don classmates and teammates, John Sullivan, Bob Ercole, John Nagel, Steve Hine, George Klein, Ford Connor, Morris Cannon, and then other teammates, Kevin Mahan, David Hubbard, Michael Evans, and people who I know and love, Maureen Urkel and Libby Nagel. I also have a special love and thanks to my daughters, Margaret, Eleanor, and Kathleen, who have been running, biking, and hiking with me since the day they were born. And thank you, Loyola, for this honor.